Yo! Happy friggin' New Year, everybody! It is 2020. Woohoo! I should have had a little horn. Maybe I'll edit one in later. But
Nope.
yo, thank you very much for checking out this video today. Welcome to the new year. What are your resolutions? Are you a resolution person? Are you not a resolution person? I tend to not be a resolution person because I think if we want to make changes or we want to do something better to improve our life, we should just do it instead of having to wait for a specific day. But that said, I'm also a hypocrite, clearly, because I made a video yesterday about changes that I'm going to do this year with the channels, both here on YouTube and on Twitch. Check it out. Bam, there. I don't know. I can't. No, I think it'll be on that side. I can't remember. It'll be up there somewhere. But anyway, so while I didn't necessarily make resolutions, I'm definitely looking to change around some things this year. Moving forward as we get into it. But I did promise a story, and at the turn of the century, way back when, during the turn of the century, I mean, it was 20 years ago. I don't know why I did an Irish accent there. It was a bad Irish accent, but yeah, I don't know why I did that. It should have been like an English accent, right? Turn of the century. Anyway, so yeah, I had kind of teased a story yesterday that like Y2K, let me paint a picture for you. Way back when, at Y2K, everybody was freaked out that everything was going to stop, right? That it was going to be the end of mankind. All computers were going to shut off and stop working, and traffic lights were going to stop, and air traffic controllers, towers were going to go down, and airplanes were going to crash, and we were all going to die. Like it was the beginning of the apocalypse, essentially. Stores were crazy. I don't know if you guys live at any place where there's snow, but anytime there's supposed to be a big snowstorm, right, shelves go crazy, or people go crazy. Shelves are wiped out of water, essentials, all of that stuff. And Y2K was that on crack. There were people that like built shelters in their basements and stuff. Seriously, look it up. It's effing crazy. So Y2K from 99 to 90, or from 99 to 2000, that New Year's, there was a few reasons that myself and a few friends just decided to stay home that night, right? We did not want to go out. Not necessarily because of any of that stuff. We just didn't want to deal with the bullshit. I was firmly in the camp of nothing is going to happen. Like, nothing's gonna happen. I've always been that way, and concerning that in particular, I definitely was that way. But just to avoid the idiocy that might happen, that's what we decided to do. So myself, my friend Bill, my friend Gub, or Gubby, as I will probably refer to him later, and it was a nickname, by the way. And then my friend Brendan had decided to go to Brendan's house, invite some other people over. We were just going to play poker, right? We were just going to play cards all night, and kind of just have a small gathering of friends, hanging out, whatever. So that's what we did. So this story, by the way, is going to involve telling other stories as I go along. So this is how I generally tell stories, and this is why I don't get through stories very often, or why they take me forever. And I'm going to try to keep this as brief as possible, but still tell the story of how I ended up spending the first few hours of the new century in jail, and how I hope you guys are watching this not in jail. Well, then again, if you are in jail, I don't know if you get YouTube in jail. You might. I don't know. I don't think you do, though. So if you're watching this, you're not in jail. Yay, you! Anyway, or maybe you do, right? If you get internet time or something, I don't know, maybe. Yeah, probably not. Anyway, sidetracked. So there will be some other stories I have to tell in the process of telling this one, but so we go to my friend Brendan's house. We ring in the New Year. As a matter of fact, we were playing cards, and around midnight. This was before cell phones also, right? So it's not like we had constant internet access right at our fingertips at all times, right? So when we were in the room playing poker, we didn't have TV on or anything else. Like there was just nothing. We were just playing cards. We were just focused on us. We didn't have, we may have had a radio. No, I don't even think we had a radio on. There might have been a cassette or something playing in the background, or a CD. I think CDs were out by then. They were. That was an old man joke. Anyway, so we're playing cards, and Brendan gets up at one point, and he goes in the other room, and he was like, oh, by the way, guys, it's 12:05. We're like, oh, yay, Happy New Year. Yay, let's get back to the card game. And that was it. There was no panic. No, computers died. No planes crashed. There was no just random people combusting into flames as we had all been promised and had been foretold. And so we just kept playing cards, and we get around to about 2 o'clock in the morning, 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and we want food, right? Because you get hungry. right? We'd all been drinking. I quit drinking around midnight. At this time, I lived in Westland, Michigan, which was about 45 minutes to an hour away from where Brendan lived in Trenton, which is where I grew up, in Trenton, Michigan. And so we were all at Brendan's house in Trenton, and I knew I had to go back home, at some point, and I really didn't want to sleep at Brendan's, so I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna stop drinking early. There's a reason to that, because literally a year prior to this, December 28th of 1998, I'd actually got popped for drunk driving the day that I moved into a new apartment with a buddy of mine. He and I decided to get an apartment. We moved in that day. We went out to the bar that night. I got popped. It was stupid. Don't do it. It was the best thing that ever happened in my life, though. It did, well, one of the best things. It did tell me that, or show me that, I was on a path that was not good, right? So I really did. I turned my life around. I quit drinking for the most part. I'd lost my license for 6 months. By this point, I had it back, obviously. And so I had a few drinks, but I wasn't drunk. I think at one point throughout the night, I probably did get drunk, but I didn't. I definitely wasn't by, the time we were going to go get breakfast, because I quit drinking. I think I did one shot at midnight, and then by this time, it was 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. That was the last thing I drank. So 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, we want to go to the truck stop because it's open 24/7, and we were going to go get breakfast. Well, Bill and Gubby didn't want to go. They were tired. They just wanted to pass out, and I figured, you know what, screw it. We'll go. Brendan and I will go. We'll get breakfast, and then I'll bring Brendan home, and then I'll just go either drive back home to Westland or just drive to my mom's, because my mom lives in Trenton also. So I could just drive there, sleep on the couch, and then head back home. But I'm weird about sleeping in new places or over people's houses. So Brendan and I decided to go. He didn't want to drive, just because he didn't want to. He had a truck, and it had snowed. There was snow and ice. It was really cold. Before global warming and stuff. This time of year, I'm mostly kidding, but this time of year used to be really, really cold and snowy and icy and everything else. And so he didn't want to drive his truck because it's super light, and I was going to drive my car. So we leave. We get out to my car. I let it run for a few minutes before we left, but by the time we decided to go, it hadn't warmed up enough where the heater had kicked in. The windows looked relatively clear, but once we got into the car, the windows started fogging up really, really bad. So we drive 2 miles down Allen Road, and then or down Van Horn. I don't know if you know the area. I don't know why I'm telling you street names. That's weird and dumb. But anyway, so we drive 2 miles. We make a right on what's called Allen Road, and Allen Road is this 4-lane wide road with a left-hand turn lane, right? So it's 5 lanes wide. It's a pretty big road. There's a major train. Train crossing, railroad crossing on that road. And so by the time we're going down Van Horn, my windows are fogging and icing over, right? Because the heat in the car, the heat coming off of us, hitting the windshield, and then that warming it up, but then it being so cold outside, and my heater wasn't working very well. It's really icing over. And so I've got the defrosters blasting, but it's not really working. And I'm having some trouble seeing where I'm going. We make a right onto Allen, and at this point, I've got the whole windshield, right, is here. I've got this little spot here that I can see, right where the vent is. I can see a little bit of the street. And so I'm driving, and I'm trying to look down there, but then, Allen Road, for some reason, had no lights on that night. There was no street lights when we turned onto that road. So it was dark, but then with the snow and the ice and the cold and then the windshield, I couldn't see anything. And I should not have been driving. I should have just pulled over then, waited 10, 15 minutes for the heater to kick on, but I didn't because I'm stupid. And instead, I decided to Ace Ventura it, right? So I roll down the window and I crank my head out. And as I do that, I realize I've crossed over from the lane that I was in, which was the right lane. I crossed over into the left lane, and then I'd also crossed over into the left-hand turn lane. And so I noticed that, and I'm like, oh shit, and I hook back into my lane, and as I do that, I see a cop coming the opposite direction. I'm like, son of a bitch, I'm done. So I see him do the UE, I see the lights come on, and I know immediately I'm getting pulled over. So I look at Brennan, and it's at this point that it hits me that I remembered I had a ticket from the previous summer. I got my license back in June that year of 99, and it was July or August. It was either a speeding ticket or a seatbelt. There was some kind of ticket that I had gotten, and I hadn't paid it, right? I don't know why I didn't pay it other than just pure irresponsibility and stupidity, but I didn't pay it. And so I think about that in this moment. And this is the first time I've been pulled over since I got pulled over for drunk driving. I knew I was safe on that end, but that ticket like rang in the back of my mind at that time. And I was like, yo, so I said to Brendan, I was like, dude, this may not be good. Like, I'm just letting you know right now, I may have a ticket that I didn't pay off. And so if something happens, can you drive my car home? And he was like, yeah, dude, no problem, blah, blah, blah. So cool. So we sit there, the cop comes up, takes my information, goes back to his car, and like it felt like hours go by, but it was probably 10 minutes or so. And at this point I know something's up because then a second and a third cop car come. And I'm like, yep, I'm getting arrested. I'm going to jail right now. So I look at Brendan and I'm like, dude, if they arrest, I think that's going to happen. Like, please drive my car back home and then wake up, like get Gubby. And Gubby is somebody that I've never known that guy to not have at least $200 to $500 on him in cash, and he always had between like $200 and $1,000. Like, this dude always had cash on him. I think I was 26 at this time. We were all about the same age. Brendan was a year older than us. I think Bill was 1 or 2 years older than us. Gubby and I were the same age, and so he was like 26. He had a kick-ass union job at that time. He was a union welder, so he made really, really good money. He still lived at home. He didn't have a car. He had no bills, like no expenses, because he still lived at his parents' house. So all of his money, and the dude worked like 40 to 60 hours a week, making killer union wages at that time. So he always had cash. It was at least once a month that we would go to the bar and he would just buy drinks for everybody the whole night. Like, he always had money. I literally watched him drop $800 on one stripper in a strip club in like the period of 2 hours, like $800 cash just to one stripper. So Gubby had money. So I tell Brendan, I'm like, yo, when you get back home, take my car. When you get back home, wake up Gubby, have him come bail me out. I can get him money by Monday and pay him back. He was like, cool, no problem. So we're sitting there. The cop comes up, of course, asks me to get out of the car, all that stuff. Handcuffs me, puts me in the back of his car. And while he's like doing like whatever processing cops have to do while I'm still in the car, and the cop was pretty cool, by the way. Like, there was no, I knew I'd effed up. I knew that this was the issue. So he tells me the issue, and so I was like, hey, can my buddy drive my car home? Because when I got popped for drunk driving, I had asked that cop the same thing, and the cop had actually let my friend drive the car, which was ironic because my friend that night, I'll tell that story later, but he was actually drunker than I was, but the cop didn't even think twice, let him drive my car home, so it didn't get impounded, which was awesome. So I asked this cop, I was like, yo, if my friend Brendan, I didn't say yo, I never said yo until I started streaming, it's weird, but anyway, so I asked him if Brendan could drive my car home, would that be okay? And he was like, yeah, dude, no problem. So I was like, cool. So I'm sitting in the back of the car, cop code, blah, blah, blah. He goes back up to the other car with a couple of other cops. And all of a sudden, I see Brendan get out of my car and he's walking back with cops. And I was like, what's going on? Fuck, dude, did Brendan just get arrested? And so the cop that's arrested me gets back in the car. I was like, what was going on? Did Brendan just get arrested? And he was like, no, we're taking him home. He said he wasn't comfortable driving home. He didn't know if he was sober enough to drive home. So we're going to give him a ride home. And I was like, okay, what's happening with my car then? And he was like, well, we'll have to call a tow truck and it'll come. I was like, dude, can it just sit here? Can we move it up to the parking lot? Like, I don't live down here. I have to work Monday morning. And he was like, yeah, no, if your friend can't drive it home, it's got to be impounded. There's nothing we can do. So I'm pissed at this point. That really irritated me. So we go, and this is in Woodhaven, Michigan, by the way. So we go, we get to the cop shop. It's like 20 minutes. If you've ever been arrested, there's a lot of bullshit, like paperwork, and they take all of your, like your coat and your gloves, and then they go through all of your possessions, and they put all those in a bag. It just takes time. So it's like 20 minutes to 30 minutes by the time I get like to the actual cell, and I get to make a phone call, right? So I call Bill's pager, which, this was, again, before cell phones, but we all had pagers. So I call Bill's pager, and I page him with my pager number, 911, just because, like, they hadn't called yet. I didn't know Brendan's number offhand. Like, I didn't know his home number offhand, so I couldn't call that. So I called Bill's pager, paged it with mine, 911, figuring that at least if he was there, he would know to expect Brendan and he'd get the story soon. So I get put in the jail cell and I sit there, and it literally felt like days. It wasn't, I'm sure, but if you've ever been in that situation, time is weird right there in that moment. And surprisingly enough, I was by myself. There was nobody else in this jail cell, which I found out why later. But so about an hour and a half, I think, go by, and like a cop comes over, like checks on me, like makes sure I'm okay, I guess. And I was like, dude, has anybody called? Like, where? Like, my buddy was supposed to go and get my friend to come and bail me out, and like nobody's supposed to bail yet. Has anybody called? He's like, no, man, nobody's come in, nobody's called, no nothing. And I was like, what the hell? So I sit there for like another hour. And it feels like another day. It was like another hour or two. And then finally the cop comes up and he's like, well, we have to move you. And I'm like, wait, what? And he was like, well, we can't hold people here for more than a few hours. We're actually doing a lot of work around the police station and stuff. So we're using, I think it was Rockwood. No, it wasn't South Rockwood. I think it was Flat Rocks or Brownstown. It was Brownstown, the city of Brownstown. He was like, they've got a new jail and a new police station built. So we're transferring people there until they wait for arraignment. And then, you're just going to be there. And I was like, well, wait, when's arraignment? And he was like, Monday morning. And I was like, wait, what? He was like, well, yeah, unless you get bailed out. And I'm like, what the hell? Can I make another phone call? Nope. Sweet. So they get me in the cop car, and it's about another half hour or so. I get in that cop car, go through the same process, right? The cops got my bag and everything, at least, of like all my stuff, but they still handcuff me, put me in the back of that cop car, and then we drive to the next police station, and we get out there, and it was a really, really nice jail cell. If you ever get a chance to be arrested, get arrested in a city that has a brand new jail, because it was nice, man. It was really, really nice. As far as jail cells go, it was the nicest jail cell I've ever seen in my life. So there's that. And I think I've seen 4 or 5, but anyway, those are stories for another time too. So I'm sitting in jail, and it's like another hour or two go by. And finally a cop comes up and he's like, yo, you got bailed out, blah, blah, blah. Sweet. Finally, I get out, and it's sunlight. Like, it's like 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning by this time. And I'm like, what in the hell happened? And so Bill's like, dude, he's laughing. Everybody's laughing. And like, I'm pissed because I'm like, dude, what took so long? And Bill was like, dude, as soon as we found out, man, we came and got you. I was like, what the fuck do you mean, dude? It's been hours. And he was like, well, Gubby and I were, and like Gubby and Brendan are in the front seat. So Bill and I are in the back of Bill's car. Or I'm sorry, of Brendan's car, Brendan's truck. He had like the 4-door like F-150 type deal. So like we're in the back of that, and Bill and I are kind of talking, and Brendan's got the radio up, and I'm like, what the fuck happened? And he was like, well, I woke up, smelled food. I woke up, and then like walked out to the kitchen and didn't see you. Asked you where you were, and then Brendan told me what happened, so we came and got you. And I was like, wait, what? So we're driving home, or we're driving back to Brendan's, and Brendan's like, dude, I'm still hungry. I haven't eaten breakfast. And I'm like, cool, I guess we can go to breakfast. Like, I'm freaking out. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't have a car. I'm pissed off that I just sat in jail for this long. So I don't really want to go to breakfast, but I am hungry. So we go to breakfast. Gubby buys, because he always did. Gubby was badass like that. And Brendan, I don't know if you've ever known anybody that's been in the Army that's been like this, but Brendan was in the Army. He was in Desert Storm. He had some major PTSD issues. One of his things after the Army was that he refused to eat quickly. Ever. He said that while he was in the Army, he had to, just eat as fast as he could, every single meal. And so whenever he sat down to have a meal, he wanted to savor it. So he was literally the type that if he had like sausage, right, or bacon or eggs or whatever, he'd cut a bite, eat it, set his silverware down, chew it slowly, swallow it. And I don't know if he like thought about it, like said a prayer for the egg. Like, I don't know what the hell happened, but it was like a bite every 2 minutes, maybe 30 seconds to a minute. Like, this dude ate slow as fuck. So this breakfast that we went to just this little diner was like an hour long. We get, and this whole time I'm steaming, because at this time, Bill has kind of told me that, yeah, like, Bill had told me by that point what happened. So essentially what ended up happening was that Brendan had told the cops he was too drunk to drive my car. So he left. He had the cops drive him home, got home, left, got his keys, got back in his truck, immediately left, drove like 3 towns away to a place that he could find open to buy bacon, eggs, milk, and like all of this stuff, then drove back home and like hung out and cooked breakfast for himself. Because by the time Bill had woken up, the breakfast he smelled Brendan cooking was Brendan cooking them stuff. And it came out that Brendan got back home, and when he got home with breakfast, he was going to make them food, and he didn't want to wake anybody up because they were asleep. So instead of waking them up and telling them that their buddy had been arrested, he just let me sit in fucking jail for hours for something stupid. Oh, I was steamed. Brendan and I were really, really good friends at that point. I'd known him for like 10 years. I'd known him since high school. I've never talked to him since. Bill and I were really still good friends after that, but my car got impounded. I ended up losing my job because of this. I missed the work that Monday, and they had a policy that if you missed work, like if you called off after a holiday, not only did you not get any holiday pay for the holiday, but then you also got written up, and that happened to be my third write-up. So I lost my job because of this, because I spent, 5 or 6 hours in jail that should have been 20 minutes, and I shouldn't have lost my car. It cost me hundreds of dollars. I can't even remember. It was like between $500 and $700 to get my car out of impound at that time. I had to pay off the ticket for that. There was a bunch of court fees resulting in my arrest, plus the impounding of my car. It was an absolute nightmare that happened. Because Brendan was an asshole, basically. Brendan, if you're out there, man, no hard feelings at this point. But yeah, dude, that was, he tells the cops he's too drunk to drive, and then gets home and literally drives out to go get breakfast before they came and picked me up. So that's how I spent essentially the turn of the century in jail for a few hours. Yeah, and that, it was funny. I was talking to Glow yesterday about that story in particular. That one thing actually created a chain of events in the year 2000 that the year of 2000 was like the strangest year for me, because in that period of a year, like this happened, I lost that job, I got a different job. I found out later on that day that my roommate, right, we had signed a 1-year lease a year prior. I had mentioned that at the beginning of the video. My roommate, New Year's weekend, ended up getting to the apartment, deciding that he was going to go back to school that semester, moved all his shit out, and was just gone. So then I ended up having to move all of our stuff, like all of the rest of our stuff, out of the apartment, clean it up, do all of that stuff all on my own. That led to some major issues between he and I. And then that was when I started like talking to my first ex-wife, and that year was just incredible from that point on. Like 3 weeks later, I ended up buying a brand new truck. A day later, that ended up I ended up getting into an accident, doing $2,000 worth of damage to it, and then lost it for, I think, 2 months. I don't think I got it back till like the end of February. So it was about a month that I didn't have my brand new truck. It was a 2000 Dodge Ram, and I got into an accident like not even 12 hours after I took it off the lot because of Bill, who was with me the night that the same Bill from this story ended up getting sick. We'd gone out to the bar the night that I bought my truck. I didn't drink, but he did, and on the way home he'd thrown up out the side of my truck as I was driving him home, and when I woke up the next morning there was just puke frozen to the side of my brand new truck. So I went through a car wash, washed my truck, and then when I got out on the road, tried to, it was snowing, and the cars in front of me were kicking up snow and water and shit on my windshield wipers. I turned my windshield wipers on, and either they froze or something, but all it did was smear stuff across my windshield. Couldn't see. And traffic in front of me, which was, a 4-lane road, Allen Road again, interestingly enough, was stopped going northbound. Traffic was stopped because coming southbound, there was a funeral procession that was making a left-hand turn in front of traffic, like across traffic, to go into a cemetery, and traffic was stopped. I didn't know it because I couldn't see out my windshield, and I ended up hitting the car in front of me. So, yeah. Bars and drinking, obviously not a good idea, but even if you're sober, man, your drunk friends can fuck up shit for you. So yeah, Uber, Lyft, or drink at home. It's much, much cheaper. It's not as fun though. But anyway, what cool New Year's stories do you guys have? Maybe not involving jail, but if they do, I can leave those down below. But let me know. Do you go out to the bar on New Year's Eve? Do you stay at home? Do you go to friends' houses? If you have any really, really cool, fun New Year's stories, let me know down below. And yeah, Thank you guys very much for listening to this story. There will be more to come. I don't know what the next video I'm going to do in this playlist is going to be about. Maybe, I don't know, maybe it'll be getting the truck, or maybe it'll be meeting my first ex-wife, because like that's a story in and of itself, and then that all kicked up right at that same time. So I don't know, we'll see what happens. But I do appreciate your time. Thanks for hanging out with us. Stay out of jail, man. Be smart when you drink. I hope everybody is safe today after last night, but moving forward, man, everybody be safe. Don't drink and drive. It's incredibly fucking stupid. I'm lucky that when it happened to me, I had a good attitude about it, so it really, really changed my life for the better. But I was also lucky at the time that it happened that it wasn't as costly as it is now in regards to money and everything else. And I was extremely lucky that like I didn't hurt anybody, which was awesome, right? Because you hear all those terrible stories of people's lives who have been absolutely ruined because their kid was killed by a drunk driver or something else. So like, just be safe, be responsible, and be awesome human beings to each other. I love you guys. You guys rock. Until I see you next time, keep on living the dream, and happy fucking New Year!